The 5 steps of the Smart Systematic Selling sales conversation are agenda, needs assessment, money, decision makers, and presentation. Let's talk about these real quick from 30,000 feet. First of all, why do we set an agenda for our sales meeting? The reason we do that is for actually 3 reasons. Number 1, the agenda step allows us to take control of the meeting. Number 2, it levels the playing field. And number 3, it reminds the other person or people as to what it is that we're there to do. So you're actually setting an agenda for your meeting. That's the agenda step. The next step we have is the needs assessment step. In the needs assessment step, our goal is to identify buoys which turn into pain points. We want to get our prospect emotionally critical on 2 to 3 pain points. The reason we focus on pain as opposed to pleasure in the needs assessment step is because we know pain is a greater motivator than pleasure. Agenda, needs assessment, then we go into the money step. Now, the money step comes right after the needs assessment step because we know that once somebody's in pain, they'll pay anything to make the pain go away. The reason we don't have the money step at the end of the sales conversation is because by then, if we've shared with our client what it would look like for them to work with us, we've gone over all the details, we're getting them all ready to go, and then we talk about money at the very end, they've cooled off. They are not going to be critically emotional anymore. So that's why we talk about money right after the needs assessment step. It's because we know once somebody's in pain, they'll pay anything to make the pain go away. The problem is, once the pain goes away, if you wait until the end to go over money, once the pain has gone away, so does the willingness to pay. The 4th step we have is the decision maker step. The decision maker step comes right before the presentation step, simply because it doesn't make sense to present to somebody or somebodies that aren't decision makers. We want to make sure we have all the decision makers in the room before we present to them. And that takes us to the last step, the presentation step. Now, the reason the presentation step is at the very end, why don't we front load our sales meeting with the presentation step, going over all the things and all the stuff and telling them all about our company and how we can provide us. So why do we wait until the end? Well, it's just because it doesn't make sense to present to somebody that's not fully qualified. Why would you waste your time suffering from alligator syndrome? You got that really big mouth and 2 tiny little ears. You can't help yourself. You got to keep talking. Why would we waste our time telling our prospect about all the things and all the stuff if we don't even know if they're qualified? So the presentation step comes at the very end because we know once we cross the threshold from the decision maker step into the presentation step, we have a fully qualified buyer. We have a buyer that has needs that we can help them with. They have the money to afford to work with us, and they can, in fact, make a decision today. That's why the presentation step is at the very end. So again, agenda, needs assessment, money, decision makers, and finally, presentation. They're all set in that way for very specific reasons. Don't skip a step. Always make sure that when you're doing a sales meeting, you're going over all 5 steps of the Smart Systematic Selling sales conversation. Agenda, needs assessment, money, decision makers, presentation. Now you know.